Hi, I'm Mike Anderson. I'm a lecturer here at JMI, and today I'm going to talk about the 12-bar blues form, and we're going to use some notes, some chord tones to start building some improvisations over the 12-bar blues. Is a really great canvas that's used for improvising and self-expression. So we're going to look at one in a 12-bar blues in B flat today. So the first chord we have B flat 7, and that's going to be 1 bar of B flat 7, 1 bar of E flat 7, and then 2 bars of B flat 7. So that's the first 4 bars of the blues. I'll just play that very quickly. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then we've got 2 bars of E flat 7. And then back to 2 bars of B flat. Then 1 bar of F, 1 bar of E flat, then back to B flat. And to get to the top, we might chuck in an F7. So that's a typical way of playing the blues in a more simplified context. When jazz musicians like to play it a little bit more, they like to expand on the harmony just a little bit more, and I'll talk you through that. So first 4 bars will be a bar of B flat 7, 1 bar of E flat 7, and then 2 bars B flat 7, like the more traditional chord progression. Then we've got 2 bars of E flat, back to the 1 chord, which is B flat, and then we're going to go down to the 6th chord here. And then for the last 4 bars, 2, 5, which is C minor, F7, and then we're going to do a little turnaround, which is a 1, 6. So 1 is B flat 7, 6 is G7, 2 is C minor 7, and then 5 is F7. So slightly, a little bit more movement than just the 1, 5, 4. We've got a 1, 6, 2, 5 going on, which just creates a little bit more tension and a little bit more storytelling in the harmony. So each of these chords, for instance, the first chord, B flat 7, what makes that chord up is the 1, the 3, the 5, and the flat 7. And so that gives you that B flat 7 sound. Slightly bluesier sound than your average major chord. And it's definitely not a major 7 chord or a major 6. It's got that flat 7 in there, which is that bluesy note, which kind of suggests it's leading somewhere else, which is leading to E flat 7. Now the notes for the E flat 7, starting on E flat, the 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Back to B flat, and then G7. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Now here, when we go to the 2 chords, C minor 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. And then the 5 is a 7 again, dominant 7. 1, 3, 5, flat 7, and then we're back to the turnaround. So we've got to quickly negotiate all these chords. 1, 6, 2, 5. Okay, so what I did there, I was using the notes from each of those chords. So B flat 7, I was using, these are called arpeggio notes or chord tones. They're tones found within the chord. And what we're going to do to start improvising through the blues, we're going to start just by using the root notes of each chord. So for instance, if we take the first 4 bars, it's 1 bar of B flat. So we've got to find a B flat. Well, I'll use this one here. And then the second bar, we've got an E flat 7. We've got an E flat right here. And then the next 2 bars, B flat again. Then after that, we've got 2 bars of E flat. 2 bars, and then 1 bar of E flat. B flat, sorry, 1 bar of B flat. And then G. G7, that's the 6th chord. And then 2, which is C minor 7. There's the C there, that's the root note. And then F, that's the root note there. That's the F. And then we've just got the turnaround, the 1, 6, 2, 5. So I might play it here. 1, that's a B flat. 6, which is the G, which is the root for G7. 2, which is the root for C minor 7, F, which is the root for F7. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign a specific rhythm to each of those notes. We're not quite improvising yet, but we're just starting to get used to outlining the harmony. So what we're going to do is play just a simple rhythm on the B flat, on the root note of each chord as it goes by. So after doing the root notes, we're going to start looking at outlining the thirds of each chord. So if we take the first 4 bars again, we've got a bar of B flat 7, and the third of B flat is D. Here's a D here, and then a bar of E flat 7. There's the third there, that's a G. And then we're back to the D again for B flat 7. And then we've got 2 bars of E flat. And then 1 bar of B flat. So back to the D again. And then 1 bar of G7. And the third there is going to be the B natural. And then the third of C minor 7, E flat. And then the third of F7, A, and then we're back to the turnaround again, which will be, so D is the third of B flat 7, B natural is the third of G7, E flat is the third of C minor 7, and then A is the third of F7. We're going to do the fifths of each chord. So the fifth of B flat is F. The fifth of E flat is B flat. And then we've got 2 more bars of B flat. and then 2 bars of E flat. So we're going to play the B flat there, and then 1 bar of B flat, and then 1 bar of G7, the 6th chord. The 5th of G7 is D. And then we're going to play the 5th of C minor 7 and the 5th of F7. And then we're up to the turnaround again. So we're going to play F, the 5th for B flat 7, D, the 5th for G7, G, the 5th of C minor 7, and C, the 5th for F7. And then we're going to play around using some rhythmic ideas doing that stuff. 2, 4. Next, we're going to do the 7th of each chord. So the 7th of B flat is A flat. The 7th of E flat is D flat. And then the 7th of B flat again. Then up to the E flat again for 2 bars, D flat. And then 1 bar of B flat, the 7th is A flat, and then G7, the 7th is F, and then C minor 7, the 7th is B flat, and then F7, the 7th is E flat. And then we're up to the turnaround with 7ths again. So B flat 7, G7, C minor 7, F7, and then we're back to the start. So once we've mapped out all the chord tones of each of these chords, we want to start using them in a slightly more creative way. So one exercise that I like to do is I will, for instance, just use the root and the third of each chord. I don't know what I'm going to play, but I'm going to improvise with the rhythm of each of those notes. So for instance, B flat 7, we're going to have a B flat and a D. Actually, I'll play it down here. And then for the E flat 7, the root and the third, E flat and G, and then back to B flat. And then we can skip ahead to the G7, the root and the third, C minor 7, root third, which is C and E flat, and then root third for F7, so F and A. And then on the turnaround, and then when we do the thing, I'll do some. Okay, one thing that I'd like to talk about is as well, we're going to grab two notes, two chord tones from each of these chords, but they're going to be the two most important notes of these chords. These really help define the sound of these chords, and that is the third and the seventh. Because usually, if we're playing with other musicians, more often than not, they will have the other notes of the chords anyway. They'll be covering it one way or another. A bass player might be walking, or a piano player might have it in a chord voicing, whatever the situation might be. But the most crucial notes that define these chords are the third and the seventh. In this case, B flat 7. The third is D, and the flat 7 is the A flat. And then for the E flat 7, the third is the G, and the flat 7 is the D flat. Now you'll notice something cool about this. B flat 7, there's the third and the seventh. To E flat 7, there's the seventh to the third. It's the same shape. So you can So there's room just with that sound of these two notes going this way and that way. And that connection is really, really important. And the way, whenever we go up a fourth, so the relationship of B flat to E flat 7 is up a fourth, 1, 4. The thirds and sevenths are just a semitone away from each other, below, but they swap over. So the third of B flat 7 becomes the flat 7 of E flat 7. The flat 7 of B flat 7 becomes the third of E flat 7. So we can take these thirds and sevenths. They're also known, you might have heard of them referred to as guide tones as well. That's how I learnt, what I learnt to call them. So we can take the guide tones through the whole progression. So that's B flat 7, E flat 7, back to B flat 7, and then 2 bars of E flat, 1 bar of B flat 7, and then 1 bar of G7, then 1 bar of C minor 7. So here's the third E flat, here's the seventh B flat, and then F7. That's the seventh and the third. So the same thing, except this time we're coming from a minor chord. So here's the flat 3 and the flat 7. Now for C minor 7, when we move to F7, that note stays the same. The flat 3 of C minor is also the flat 7 of F7. And then the flat 7 in C minor moves to the natural 3 of F7. So far we've mapped out all the chord tones of a 12-bar blues. And what we've done so far, we've just sort of outlined each individual note and then a couple of pairs of notes. So we did the root and the third, and then we did the seventh and the third, or the guide tones. Later on down the track, we're going to start extending that a little bit more and using more of these arpeggios in hopefully, and so different combinations of note choices. So that could be the third and the fifth, or the fifth and the seventh, or the root and the seventh, or any combination of, or maybe a combination of 3 notes, the 3, the 5 and the 7. And then we're going to start using that material, but thinking a little bit more rhythmically, and that's when we get some more interesting ideas, and that's when we start to really sound like we're creating something new and interesting and improvising over these chord changes a little bit more.